oh my gosh, what have I done? I totally regret it. Greetings, Luxe lovers. Welcome back. Here we appreciate luxury through the lens of practicality. So if that sounds good to you, please consider subscribing and stay a while. And my bag of the day is my Hermes Birkin 35 in Barenia Faubourg leather in the color Fauve, which you'll see plays a big part in our story today. In my previous video about my special order experience and tips to get a special order bag, I mentioned that it's okay to say no to bags that are offered to you in the boutique. So I wanted to expound upon that and share my own detailed stories. This will also become a little bit of a story time of how I started my own Hermes journey. So let's begin. I don't mean to sound so old, but when I started my Hermes journey, it was really just a different age and time. It was a hot summer day back in 2018 when I walked into the Madison Avenue store, which is now moved, and I struck up a conversation with the first SA who would talk to me. For context, before 2018, my most recent purchase was for my 30th birthday, which was in 2013. Back then, I had bought a beautiful cashmere silk blend shawl, and then I didn't go back for 5 years. The first bag that was offered to me in boutique that I declined was a Birkin 35 in Barenia Faubourg leather in the color Fauve. Now you might say, hey, isn't that just the same bag that you have next to you? Well, yes it is, and I'll go into a little bit of the background about that. When I was talking to this SA, I really didn't have a concept of pre-spend. I don't think that was like a big term back in the day. I had seen a few YouTube videos online about going into a boutique, asking for a bag, and how challenging it was to get one of these bags. And of the research that I saw online, I was convinced that the Birkin 35 size was the best for me. So I went into store and was talking to this SA, and to be honest, I don't remember the full conversation at this point, but I do remember saying, and I would be interested in a Birkin 35. And he kind of looked at me like, not laughing, but I laugh now in retrospect, and he was like, a Birkin 35? Like a little skeptical? And I was like, yeah, I think this would really be the best size for me. And granted, I'm a very short person, so, this was probably a mismatch to what he might have thought. But he was like, okay. And then in that same appointment, he came out with a bag that looked like this, a Birkin 35, this beautiful Barenia bag. He's like, I do have something for you to try. And at this point, there wasn't a lot of people in store. Again, it might have been a low season. It was the old store on Madison Avenue. And so there weren't a lot of people around. And he unboxed it and let me try it on. And now that I think about it, there was no plastic wrapping, so it must have been offered to someone else who declined it. So I brought it to the mirror and, tried it on against my body. But there was a big scratch right in front of it. I want to say like the scratch was like there. And I was like, oh, I don't know if, I want this with this scratch. So I politely declined and went on my merry way. Then fast forward maybe 2 to 3 days, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I totally regret it. I texted back that SA because I did get his information, and I said something to the effect of, I was really thinking about it and I would actually love that Birkin. Do you still have it? And it ended up that I did come back in store. Again, I don't remember the mechanics exactly, but I was able to come back to store, and he brought me to one of the viewing rooms. And in that same appointment is my second bag that I turned down, which was a Kelly 32 in blue Nuit with gold hardware. I'll put a picture up of me trying on that bag in the room here, but as you can see, it was just a very big Kelly bag, and I just thought that the blue and the gold at that point looked very matronly on me. So I declined that one. And then, it was fine. And then he brought in this beauty right here. And so I did get the same exact model, leather type, and color that he had shown me earlier. So it does make me wonder if maybe they get a few at a time. But I took this one out and I was like, oh yes, absolutely. Love that Birkin. So I went home with it, and I would say that this is a rare instance of someone coming into store with no purchase history. I kind of don't even count that scarf because it was 5 years earlier, and I don't even think that was like in my profile, and someone who got a Birkin bag 3 or 5 days after that initial appointment with no pre-spend. So those might be the good old days. It also could be that the Birkin 35 size was less popular. It might have been a different story if I was trying to get maybe a Birkin 30 or smaller. But at that point, I just really wanted a bag that I could use for work. So that is the story of my first Birkin, how I got a Birkin with no pre-spend, and how I declined this color and model, but ultimately was able to add it to my collection. So then a little after that, I was so happy with my Birkin. Of course, I was hooked on the brand at that point, and in my head I was thinking, oh, what is my next quota bag? So I went back in store after a while, and I was putting on my wish list a mini Kelly in noir and gold hardware. I was expressing to my SA that yes, this was the bag that I wanted next. And back in those days, it was very casual. Again, I don't remember what season it was, but it wasn't very crowded. And I remember him looking at his records and he said, would you be interested in a mini Kelly in gold? And I quickly dismissed it and I was like, no, because in my mind, I had just bought this Fauve bag and gold would have been just way too close to this color. And to this day, I kick myself almost every time I think about that memory. If I had only said, why yes, let me see it, I probably would have gone home with it. But to me, that was the bag that got away. Back in 2018, we never would have known that it would be so hard to come by in these days. So I had this on my wish list and I figured it might take a few months to come in, but then months just turned into more months and the black mini Kelly kind of fell off the radar. So we just stopped talking about it after a while. But I was interested and I put on my wish list next a Kelly 28 Retorn in palladium hardware. So this takes me to my fourth bag that I declined, which was a Picotin in noir leather and palladium hardware. This was presented to me when I was in store, still waiting for my Kelly 28 wish list. And I remember he brought it out. It was still wrapped in all of the plastic packaging and he pulled it out, very excited to show me. And I just knew in my heart of hearts that this wasn't the bag for me. So I politely declined, but I did share with him, you know, it's a beautiful bag. However, I really want something with a shoulder strap that would fit into my lifestyle, considering that my Birkin didn't have a shoulder strap at that point. So I was able to at least let him know the reasoning behind why I was declining the Picotin. And to be honest, I've never really had an allure for owning a Picotin. Eventually, I was able to be offered my Kelly 28 in a taupe with palladium hardware. So clearly, by declining the Picotin, I was able to stay in contention for the Kelly 28, which is ultimately what I really wanted. Fast forward through the years, I then added more bags to my collection. I believe I added my Evelyne Mini in 2020, then my Birkin 25 in 2021, and my Constance in 2022, and now here we are in 2023. And the fifth bag that was offered to me was an In the Loop 18 bag in baton, but this time in palladium hardware. And I took it out and it just didn't resonate with me. And so I politely declined and he went back to the back room and then brought out what I ultimately bought, which was my In the Loop 18 bag in baton with the gold hardware. So I'll never really know why he brought out the palladium first and not the gold, but for whatever reason, it was fine that I politely declined one and then took the other. But he did stress to me how rare that was these days. Also, when I mentioned that I was interested in something in gold and nata, he mentioned that they had the mini Jypsiere in that nata and gold color combination. And while he didn't bring it out and present it to me, I kind of do like to think that if I expressed interest that he would have shown it to me and I could have purchased it. But that's kind of an edge case. Another honorable mention that I wanted to include, that as stores were starting to open up, I think it was late 2020, we were saving for a new house. So I was pretty much on a spending moratorium where we were just saving up for our down payment. But as I was in store, and honestly, I don't remember what I was purchasing, but I wasn't looking for a bag at that point, he did slip in this phrase, which I do appreciate, which was along the lines of, "And would you be interested in something from the back?" And this to me is code for, are there any wish list bags that you'd be interested in seeing? And when I think about those times and how hard it was for retail to get back on its feet, it's possible that they had a little more inventory on hand. But like I said, we were saving for a house, and it really took all my strength to politely decline, to say that no, it wasn't that kind of a shopping trip and that I would wait in the future. In short, I hope you've enjoyed the story time, in that it would help you gain confidence in staying true to yourself and your own style, and to know that saying no to a bag that you know you don't want only helps your SA understand you and your personal preferences better, so that you can get the bag of your dreams in the future. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!